At this time, we'll open it up for board discussion. To my fellow supervisors, thank you, first of all, for your diligence and your questions. Since we do not have a queue per se, you want to just make eye contact, or whoever wants to go first, or open the discussions. Yeah, that's what you guys all do. You guys all just put your heads down and look at the papers like you won't make eye contact.
All right, here, I'll make it.
All right,
I'll make a comment.
All right, Supervisor Harmon.
I'm just going to repeat a little bit of what Mr. Rickert said. What a great group of candidates. It was impressive. There you go. That started off good.
All right, that's perfect. Yeah, I will say, having done this roughly a year ago, this has been an absolute, just to the four candidates that were here, you guys did an amazing job and have definitely made this, I can say, for myself, a difficult decision. So as chair, I always want to defer and let you guys go first, opposed to me talking. So Supervisor Plummer.
Just trying to understand the process here. It says the board members will be asked to share their final rankings of candidates. Are that coming, or are we doing that now? Or
this is all just an outline. So maybe I should go over that a little bit. At this time, the chair would entertain motions if anybody wants to make a motion to appoint somebody, or if you want to take the time to talk about your own ranking system, you're welcome to do so. It's completely up to you. Okay. Miss Fugit and her incredible team at Support Services put together this binder, but it's all just outline. It's all just what's the term? I don't want to downplay it, Miss Fugit. It's a phenomenal job. Supervisor Kelstrom was disappointed there was no pictures. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, this is just an outline. So at this point, if you want to articulate some of your thoughts, you can, or you could make a motion for a vote. I'll tell you what, I see you're struggling. I'll go ahead and go first. Want me to go?
Yeah,
okay,
go ahead.
I'll go. So here's how I feel about the process. It's been, as many of you know, going back to 2022, I was part of a very, very close election in my general election, and then the failed recall was a very, very close margin as well. So I've spent quite some time at the elections office in my 2 to 3 years in office. I was asked the question by candidate Ms. Francisca at one point, when did I lose trust in elections? And that was maybe in early 2023, in the first 6 months. And that was when we were talking about moving to a hand count. And it wasn't that I had lost trust in elections. It was that I had realized that there was a lot of questions that not just Shasta County had, but the nation had around elections, because nobody really cared until, well, you got the hanging chads. I think I was just in college at that time. But going to 2016, and I didn't think Trump had a shot. So he winds up winning, and then you hear about all the Russian stuff, so it got me thinking, okay, and then 2020, I go to bed, Trump's winning, I wake up, he's losing. Well, that gave me more questions. I get involved in politics, so then when we came to the discussion very early in 23, I think it was February or March, about eliminating machines and going to a full hand count. And that wasn't what was on the table. And Ms. Francisca was in the room in those conversations with Supervisor at that time, Jones, and myself. And we looked at just doing one race and fully hand count that. And that's what I thought going into that meeting we were going to do. And then Supervisor Jones made the motion to go to a full hand count. And if you remember back, and I don't know how many of you will remember, but that day we honored, I'm sorry, I keep hitting the microphone. That day we honored a bunch of Vietnam vets at the outset of that meeting. And some of the things that the individual said, and he presented each of us with a coin about what it meant to lay everything on the line without a guaranteed outcome. And when I made the vote and the deciding vote to move us towards a full hand count, it was his words that really rang true, because I didn't think we had rampant fraud in Shasta County. That wasn't something that I necessarily believed, but I did believe the system needed to be changed. And as I prayed about my decision as the vote came down the dais, it was really, I felt very convicted that I knew the easy way would be to say, no, we're going to go back to what we had talked about originally. The hard way was going to be voting to get rid of machines. And my life was a living hell for a year and a half after it. And it wasn't just local, it was national, because I became an election denier, which still cracks me up, because I think a lot of our elections and our systems in Shasta County are fine. I think there's always room for improvement, and there's a lot of improvement needed still. And I am just one vote, and I'm going to tell people that over and over and over again. And one thing I do know is if you do what you've always done, you're going to receive what you've always got. That's probably not the proper English, but that's how I feel. At this time, I think that we need to go personally in a direction that may be an unknown. And I've discussed this with one of the supervisors, Supervisor Kellstrom, and that's it through this process. I'm definitely disappointed that we're in this spot. But again, many people thought the last appointment was going to be an absolute disaster. And that appointment, many in this room actually thought he did a great job. But I really feel what we need at this time is to continue the work that I believe I started on very, very early in 23, which was to do things way out of the box, do things way differently than they're already being done. And the fact that when we hear about a camera system, it makes me chuckle, because I said that very, very early on, that why don't we just film everything? Richard Gallardo one time at the dais said, why don't we just film everything? And I thought that's actually pretty smart, because then if they want to go back, everything's filmed. If you want to go back and watch 1,700 hours of people counting ballots, go for it. It's free. It's online. And until Clint Curtis came and talked about the camera image, that's about all that was ever made mention of it. And I want to clear something up. I didn't vote last time for Clint Curtis, and there's this misnomer that Ms. Francesca, Joanna, got second. It wasn't so much that one person got second. It was that my belief was if every single person in that office boycotted and quit, we had 3 or 4 months to an election. And with only 4 months to go, the Secretary of State for sure would have come in and seized our elections office. And I've run my entire political campaign on local control. Let us do things our way. Measure, to make us a charter county, or Measure Q, which failed, which this would have went to a ballot. I digress on that. And so I'm going to make a motion, and it's not that anybody's bad. I think now is the time to do things differently and lead in a different way. So I'm going to make a motion that we appoint Clint Curtis to be our next ROV. Hey, let's remember, this is a job interview.
Chair Cry, I need to make a subsequent motion, and I was hoping.
Hey, so
please.
Hold on, Supervisor Long, because of the screaming and yelling.
Okay.
So let me make the motion again. So if there is a second, great. If not, that's okay, because everyone's screaming. So again, listen. There's 4 people that are in the room that are going through a very public interview, and I wouldn't trade this process for anything politically or for the community, because I think everybody deserves to have this level of transparency. So I'll make a motion that we appoint Clint Curtis.
So I'm going to second that motion, but I want to explain a couple things as we go. So first of all,
if you could, Supervisor Long was next. So if you've seconded it for discussion.
Well, we don't have a queue, or I was in the queue. I turned the thing on 5 minutes ago, but go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Apologize for petting in line. No, me.
I turned mine off.
No, yeah, I'm saying myself.
Okay.
So before we go any farther with this, I'm going to make a motion. I was hoping I was not going to have to go to this point. But my motion is going to be that I do not believe Mr. Curtis meets qualifications. And so what I did was, please. What I did was I have looked at the actual special meeting language, and I did a closed circuit so I could see the exact words, and what it said is as follows. BA or related managerial experience or leadership experience. Okay, I'll give that. Experience in an election or ROV office or working in elections. Okay. Now, I went to the actual flyer that was the handout for the minimum qualifications, and it said BA in public administration, business administration, or related field, 4 years of leadership in an organization that included performing county clerk or elections functions, and experience is one-to-one offset by education can be offset by experience. So I think I'm not sure what the intent of this board was. However, it does not fit the definition. His qualifications are not something that we can go any farther with. So I make the motion that I do not believe Mr. Curtis meets the minimum qualifications under either the packet provided or the actual board vote on 327, and request he be excluded from further consideration.
Hearing no second, motion fails.
Okay.
Supervisor Kellstrom.
Yeah, so first of all, Ms. Underwood and Ms. Sharp, thank you so much for coming out here. You guys both knocked it out of the park. You were absolutely both amazing. And Joanna, I think you're great, and I think you do a great job. And I want you here, 20 more years in Shasta County. I think we are at a time right now where Mr. Curtis has been talking from the roof, yelling from the rooftops about these machines and this and that. He has a solution. His solution should make your side happy because it'll prove there's absolutely no voter fraud. If that's what you believe, his system will prove that. The other side that thinks there is massive voter fraud, this will stop it. So he should make both sides happy with what his is. You don't want any, so you're yelling no because you don't want to prove that there's no voter fraud. Is that correct?
Don't. Hey, listen. Listen, okay, that's the first warning, Mr. Gardner. That's your first warning. If you speak up again, I will ask for you to be removed.
So I think Mr. Curtis, he's moving all the way across the country here. This is obviously extremely important to him. He's giving up a lot to do this, and I think his plan is to install this system so that the other 57 counties in California can hopefully jump on board and copy it, and it may go across the whole United States. I don't think he's planning on staying here for 20 years. I think he's going to come in here, install it, prove that it works, or prove that it wasn't work. And again, this can change voting not only in Shasta County, but possibly the whole state and possibly the whole nation. So that's why I have my second. And again, thank you, ladies, for coming. Joanna, I want to see you at the office for 20 more years after this.
Are we, Chair, are we going to have board discussion before we?
We're absolutely in board discussion.
Okay.
You want to
I would like to have a speak.
Okay, hold on one second. So, Supervisor, let's do this. How about you guys just, whistle, chirp, whatever you want to do. So, Plummer's next. You'll go next after Plummer.
Got it.
And then Corky, if you want to take it after Supervisor Long, or you can pass. Supervisor Plummer.
Okay, there's 4 reasons why I don't support Clint Curtis for ROV. The first is he's had 25 years to travel the world, travel the country, getting people to overturn, election-related issues that he alleges, and to incorporate the system. And not one community, we heard him earlier today, not one community in the whole country has done it. Now, I'm for trying new things, but why would we try something that everyone else has soundly rejected? And he couldn't name one, in 12 years, according to his resume, he couldn't name one case that he's won. So something's wrong there, right? You've had that length of time to demonstrate the efficacy of what you're doing and to prove to the world. He's run for Congress 4 times, trying to convince that population, and I get it that the Democrat-Republican makes it harder, but to convince them that it's such an urgent issue that they need to put him in as the expert to fix it. Hasn't worked. So what we see is a track record of failure of his ideas to actually get any traction. And I cannot responsibly advocate for those ideas to be implemented in Shasta County when everyone else has soundly rejected it. So that's the first reason. The second reason is there's all kinds of inconsistencies in the application. I mean, we heard today that the Dominican Republic office is closed. It's still on his resume in terms of his legal office. In the application, he talks about convincing the whole county to get on board with hand counting. But then today he said, no, that's not even possible. So what's going on there? Talks about being on the Kamala Harris recount team in their 2010 run for Attorney General. Now, maybe they had a recount team to, in case there was a recount, but there wasn't a recount. So I'm not sure what that's referring to. Talks about helping Germany in 2004 to overturn the use of electronic voting machines. 2005, from everything I can tell, and maybe I'm missing something, 2005 they still used electronic voting machines. It wasn't until 2009 that they they changed the Constitution. So it's not adding up. This is a highly detailed job where you have to get the details right. And even in an application to our county, there are a number of things that don't add up and don't make sense. Number three, we talked about working with the existing staff if maybe they comply with kind of his vision going forward. But we have, testimony from last time saying that he thinks we might need to remove all the staff and start over. So that I don't think is a path forward, because then you have no institutional knowledge. And then the last thing is, when I asked him about, are there serious problems with Shasta County, he said he doesn't want to speculate. So we're going to go ahead and change. The expert in the room is saying that he doesn't know if there's anything wrong, but we're going to go ahead and what will end up being investing a lot of money if we're going to do this system on the basis of something that we don't know exists. And I get that we want to improve trust in elections, and I'm for that. Based on the data that I've seen, our trust in elections is actually not that low. But that being said, how much are we willing to invest in something that we haven't demonstrated, and that even the expert in the room, and I recently talked with another election expert who's come here, me and Supervisor Harmon, he too said he doesn't see that, he can't say for certain that there's actually fraud. So I'm not willing to invest a whole bunch of money in something that hasn't been demonstrated. So for those 4 reasons, I will not support this. And I'm going to go ahead and make a substitute motion to appoint Joanna as the ROV. And the reason for that, I think the other 2 candidates are somewhat qualified, particularly Ms. Sharp. But the situation, we have a year till an election. We've had tons of turbulence in this office over the last 3 years. We don't know, there's going to be a 6 to 9 month time frame for any of them to get up to speed in terms of actually knowing something. So even if they wanted to implement a different vision, it's not going to be till they're already starting to campaign, and then it's uncertain who will be in that office. So I think for the sake of consistency and to create some stability in that office, and then let the voters decide, because I did, like Supervisor Cry, supported Measure Q. I don't know if Supervisor Harmon, Supervisor Kellstrom did, but what we've seen is from the public, and this is, ultimately I would like this to be the decision to be made by the majority of the voters. And what we've seen, and we look at the poll from the Record Searchlight, which, fine, but if we're going to make data-driven decisions, you can present other data, but that is some data we have. The other thing I looked at, we got about, and I know the other supervisors did too, we got about 100 emails about the ROV, and I went through and categorized them. And there were 68 that advocated for Joanna, 9 against her. There were 6 for Clint Curtis. There was none for any of the others, which is understandable since no one knew them until today. But in terms of emails, it was overwhelmingly in support of Joanna. In public comment today, I counted them too. I know you were doing that too, Supervisor Cry. I was seeing check marks. I couldn't tell what you actually wrote, but
So you're looking at my notes. That's interesting.
I can see it from right here when I look towards your direction. In any case, I've heard 16 public comments for Joanna, 8 for Clint Curtis. And so on any data that we do have, that I'm aware of, and feel free to share other data if it exists, the voters of Shasta County want Joanna in this role, and so.
Okay, so I want to give you data since we're talking about that. So I guess I didn't go to Yale, but I went deeper into the data. So there was 14 pro Joanna. There were 11 anti-Joanna. There were 4 pro Clint Curtis. There was 1 anti-Clint Curtis, and there were 2 neutral. So that's how I drove that down. So that's what you're referring to, because that'll get FOIA'd. So this is what everyone can FOIA when they look at it. When you talk about the notes, I just want to make sure it's completely transparent. Completely transparent.
Yeah, I think, and we were pretty close on that, though. I think
Well,
we
we
categorized it.
weren't close. We weren't close.
No, we were. I didn't tell you the ones. I had 16 for her, 9 against. I had 8 for Clint Curtis, 4 against. So obviously we.
Well, I was
categorized
given all
it.
the data at once. So, okay. All right. Supervisor. Okay, so
So I have a substitute motion
we have a
on the
substitute
table.
motion on the floor.
And I will second his substitute motion to appoint Joanna Francesca.
Okay. Supervisor Long, it's your.
Thank you.
You bet.
And so Mr. Menor made a comment that I wrote the notes down here. Let's prioritize fact over fear, experience over ideology, community over personal agenda. I think this is an important time in our history, and we've got so much that is unsubstantiated, and we've got this narrative going on that why are we here today? We're here because this is a really important, critical position, and our county is torn apart with some of these issues. We are here to restore some stability and function. We've got an election coming up soon. The voters will get their say. I want us to heal and start to calm this narrative down that we have massive unsubstantiated fraud. We just do not have proof. So the
Listen, whoever, okay, Ms. Moore, that's your warning. Another outburst, we're going to ask you to be removed. Please, this is still a job interview, people. Like Supervisor Long, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. So we need to provide fair and impartial elections, and we need to follow federal and state laws. There is no interpretation of those at this point. If you want change, we go to Sacramento and we change the laws, or the feds change laws, and we will abide. And so we heard that time and time again, that everyone will follow the laws. And I'm going to speak to you directly, Corky. Sorry about this, but if you were hiring somebody to run your business, and you're going to see where I'm going with this in just a minute, you would hire the most experienced person with pertinent, direct, local experience that knows how to run your company. That you wouldn't hire somebody that would possibly involve you in litigation. You wouldn't involve those kinds of things. You would just pick the most applicable person with the proper experience. I hire, and I've done a lot of hiring when I was at the police department. We hire based on qualifications and temperament and all kinds of different things. So it's experience and direct, relevant. You heard me hammer this out time and time again today. Direct, relevant experience to Shasta County, to California. It's important. It matters. So I would just ask you to consider that. Joanna has 16 years of experience with Shasta County in our elections office. She's fully knowledgeable of California election law. She has the full loyalty of her staff. Nobody is talking about that. But if her staff has somebody in there that has a completely different direction, there's no sense that they will stick around. Or do we want this department to fail? I personally don't. We had the last appointed person, which was Tom Toller, who came in. He was a skeptic. He was an attorney. He came in and said publicly, I did not find any evidence of any fraud. I did not find any evidence of misfeasance or anything, and I wasn't about to break the law. He has to answer to his bar, to the state of California, where he's licensed. So he came in, and he ended up recommending Joanna. So this is somebody that came in very skeptical of this position, and he came out of it saying, we're doing a great job within our department. And so, and again, I've said this at the selection or the special meeting that we talked about. We can save Shasta County a lot of time and money and training and trying to come up to the curve. And as Supervisor Plummer alluded to, not even having to go off on a different direction and a trail completely. We can just seamlessly continue until the voters get to weigh on this. Our local elections have been shown to be accurate and lawful. So we have had a grand jury investigate this. We have had a court case where the Registrar of Voters was sued in Shasta County, and the judge said there was a profound lack of any evidence. And we also had a local kind of a skeptic come into the office and say that this is absolutely proper. And I recommend Joanna to continue on in this position because this is being run efficiently and rightfully so. So I had not wanted to get into this with Mr. Curtis, but I think the board, since he is the nomination that is in front of us, they need to know a few things. He has no experience running elections, as he told us here, or supervising election staff. He has no experience working under California law, election law, and he does not meet the minimum qualifications, and I feel very strongly about that. So let's go into Mr. Curtis's history so that the board knows what they're voting on. And he claimed in the year 2000, October, September of 2000, that he was approached by his employer, Ms. Yang from YEI Institute or Enterprises, and asked on behalf of her and Tom Feeney, who went on to the Florida House of Representatives, and eventually he became a congressman. He was asked to write software that could not be detected.
Supervisor Long, can I ask you a question? I just want to ask you a question, because if I personally, and it's not because I don't think it behooves Shasta County to disparage a candidate who flew across the country.
No, this is important, Kevin, because we have to know everything before we select the next ROV. This unfortunately is.
So if another member of this decides to disparage the other three, you're okay with that?
No, that's not.
Wrong. I may be able to make this easier for you guys. The first vote is going to be related to Joanna, and then if that one fails, it might be the time to do that.
Okay.
Correct. But
so let's take the substitute motion.
Well, if you're asking, and we're going to get right back to board comments.
Well, yeah. All I'm saying is
I do get to continue my.
Absolutely, and what I've really tried. You know what? For the essence of transparency, just go ahead. I mean, you know, no, just go ahead. Just go ahead.
Let's take the vote.
No. Listen. I don't disagree. Like I mean, the hardest part of this process for me has been not wanting to. I prefer to lift somebody up opposed to try and pound someone else down. Listen, we don't need that.
That is not helpful, seriously. If we can just keep this.
Supervisor Long and I can have these conversations.
We can talk back and forth. I would answer to that when someone puts themselves out for a position like this.
And that's why I said go ahead, continue.
That when they put themselves out for this kind of a position, and Supervisor Harmon alluded to it, this process of having to do everything in a public interview, it's not comfortable for us. It's not comfortable for the applicants. It's not comfortable, but that's in the interest of transparency.
You don't have to sell me on it. I've already said go ahead.
Okay.
Continue.
Got it. So what I would like to say is that he was solicited to develop a vote-stealing software to take votes in southern Florida away, and it was under the premise that he originally developed this software with the thought that it was going to help the GOP make sure that the Democrats weren't trying to steal elections. And then he found out that Feeney, the now Congressman Feeney, GOP, had specifically requested this. Mr. Curtis developed it in a day. He turned it over and never saw what happened with it after that point. So this software, he eventually ended up going on to, in January of the following year, so 2001, we would have gone through the 2000 November elections. I don't know what transpired with that. He went over and he resigned from this office at YEI and went to a kind of a collateral position at the Florida Department of Transportation. And so he, at the Florida Department of Transportation, found that YEI was overbilling the State Department of Transportation, so he did a whistleblower on that. But he did not do a whistleblower on this software once it had known that this software was actually intended for nefarious purpose on Mr. Feeney's part, our congressman, which, by the way, Feeney totally denies, and they say nothing about this. So while at the DOT, he files this complaint about the overbilling, but doesn't say anything about that. And it's not until, and these are verified sources through, and this is, I will make this disclaimer, this is my investigation, this is my opinion, this does not mean anything other than that. So I'm going to put that out there, that this is my opinion and going forward. So the Orlando News reported on it several years later, and basically he had resigned from YEI, went to work for Florida DOT several months after the January resignation, and then stayed with them for a period of time, but never reported this. And it wasn't until about 4 years later, from all the Orlando news sources and his affidavit that I have a copy of, that he actually blew the whistle on this voting fraud that he said, this machine software prototype that could alter elections and steal votes in the South Florida arena. YEI sued Mr. Clinton for stealing proprietary software. So his employer, when he was at YEI, turned around and sued him, saying that he had stolen software. And this is the article from the Orlando and the affidavit. This is, in 2006, so it's now somewhat dated information. I do not know the outcome of that suit from his former employer, who alleged this. In 2000, a Winter Park Electrical Resources sued Clint Curtis for copyright infringement and deceptive trade practices when he was a 1099 contractor with them. So in 2016, and Mr. Curtis alluded to this, he filed the lawsuit. I've got a copy of the lawsuit against President-elect Donald Trump and against Mike Pence, the Florida the Attorney General, and all the electors, trying to get them to not certify the presidential election results because they were fraudulent. So he received up to $50,000 from an organization that asked him to actively write letters to each of the Florida electors and ask that they not endorse this election. So the only reason I bring all this up is because currently Donald Trump is our president, and Donald Trump has a long memory, I guarantee it. And if we think that this will do Shasta County any benefit to know that the ROV that sued him to try to stop his being seated as a president-elect will direct resources to our county, I've got a bridge to sell you. That he won't forget this. And if we put Mr. Curtis in this position, I don't know what our federal funding is going to look like or where that battle's going to be won. So on his application, Mr. Curtis said he has spoken across the country to debunk excuses that lock us into electronic machines, including misinformation that machines are not connected to the internet. Again, these are not substantiated as.
So if they're not substantiated, Supervisor Long,
this
has been 12 minutes.
Seriously, this is not. This is my say, and I'm going to say what I have to say here. So,
All right.
On- oh,
At this time, I'd like Christian Gardner removed. This is his second notice. I'd like Mr. Gardner removed. Yes, we're going to take a break. So we are at recess while Mr. Gardner is removed. Sorry, you have to clear the room. You can thank Mr. Gardner on your way out. So clear the room, please, while he's removed.
But I think that first, able to come to the podium. I want to know, I'm the one that's sitting deciding vote. I want to hear Curtis's response.
I need those who are remaining to please leave. For those that are going to remain in, I'm asking you to please leave. Thank you. Jenny, please. Hey, Jenny, we're clearing the room. We'd like to move on with the interviews. Christian, let's just get on with the interviews. Just leave. We got candidates here. I gave you a warning. Yeah, you need to leave. You need to leave. That's what it is. It's no different than anybody else. Everybody else gets a warning, and then you're removed. So are you going to stay in? Do they have to physically? Because that's ridiculous. Listen, you can sit in all you want. This is about trying to get through an election or a job interview, and you're impeding that by screaming out. It's wrong on every level. We're trying to do an interview, and you're screaming out. So if you could leave, you could let Shasta County get back to the business it is. You're welcome to sit out and watch from out there. We're not having it's not a discussion. Do you care about your county or what? Yeah, so everybody else other than media needs to leave. This is your warning. You need to leave the chambers as law enforcement is on their way to remove those that stay in. The chambers have been cleared officially.
job, you guys. Good job, everybody.
All right, returning from break, we are back. Supervisor Long, it is still your time.
Thank you, Chair Cry. I would like to take the vote on Supervisor Plummer's motion and get that out of the way so we can keep the rest of my comments. I know we kind of said go ahead, you said, but can we take that vote first?
Well, I think you're in the middle of everything that you wanted to say. I think you finish at this point because there's rebuttals, and I know Supervisor Harmon, Supervisor Plummer are in queue as well, so go ahead and finish.
Well, let me just bounce this off council.
So let me say something.
Well, look,
Hold on
so
a second, 'cause
this
I
is a
can stop.
procedural issue. So typically, when you have a motion and a second, you should only have discussion on the motion that is currently up for vote, which would mean Joanna. You would take that vote, and then if you move to the next one, you would have discussions on Clint Curtis. Procedurally, that's how it should go.
That's what I was trying to do 20 minutes ago.
So maybe we could take a vote and on the motion by Supervisor Plummer, and then I'll finish out mine. I'm almost done.
Well, maybe we can listen to what some of the other supervisors would like to say, because Supervisor Harmon hasn't spoken at all, so.
We have plenty of time.
Can I
So
talk now?
Supervisor Harmon.
I'm not ready to vote, and I want to make a motion. I know you'd like to hear me vote, because that would tell you what you need to know. Or these two guys would like to hear me vote. I'm the one in the hot seat, but I'm saying right now I'm not ready to vote. And
Okay.
with everything that you said, I want to make a motion to bring Clint Curtis back to the podium.
So I would second not only for discussion, Supervisor. Well, he did.
I made a motion.
Yeah, he made the motion, so I second it for discussion, but my question is, and I want to make sure we get this right from an HR, Monica's still there. I mean, is that within our parameters of this, Council
So
Larmer?
this is an appointment by the board. This isn't the same as hiring through HR. So ultimately, if you guys have further questions and you're not ready to vote, you can ask those questions.
Okay, so we don't even need a vote for that. So, request of Supervisor Harmon, Mr. Clint Curtis, if you'd come back up to the lectern, please.
Well, if we're going to continue on this.
Hold on, Supervisor Long. Like right now, Supervisor Harmon asked for this.
Well, I think that he needs to finish what he's saying before he starts
Exactly.
talking.
Oh,
So if we're gonna take route
so
B-
go ahead and sit down, and then Supervisor Long, I just want to make sure you get everything out there, so that way Supervisor Harmon, like,
And I'm just
Yeah.
listening to council, who procedurally is telling us that we need to take a vote on the motion made by Supervisor Plummer before we continue this. So I'm just trying to be compliant with procedure and proper. So I would ask that we just take a vote on that motion, see where we stand, and then I'll finish up mine, and then we
But I
can.
think
Clerk, you
Supervisor
just-
Harmon is saying that he doesn't feel ready to vote on
said
the
he's not ready
second
to vote.
motion until he has this other information, which, because these are related motions, you could imagine that
Okay,
this might
okay.
impact his vote
I
on that.
I get it, because they're all kind of part and parcel.
We
So-
can. I can vote. I'm going to vote no right now unless I can hear the rest of this. So I can make a decision.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so
so you want to stick to procedure, is that what I'm hearing?
no, I'll finish up.
Okay.
I'll just finish up. So,
I mean, this is government at its finest. It doesn't have to be this difficult. Well, here, so Council Larmer, like,
I'll take my
he's
motion off the table until I hear.
Just let me finish, and
Yes.
then we can move on.
That help?
So the reality is, we should be working towards reaching a vote on the motion that's here. If for that motion and for that vote, you need some further information from Mr. Curtis, it's appropriate to get it. And then when we move to the vote, it's motion and second for Mr. Curtis, then ultimately you guys can dig into anything with Mr.
So
Curtis.
procedurally, because what happened was he spent X amount of time with those accusations. We stopped it, supervisor, whether they're true or not. I just said, because you said they're alleged, right?
No, no.
Those are your words. You
No,
said alleged.
what I said was, this is based on my investigation. This is not meant to slander Mr. Curtis in any fashion, because, please, this is not meant to, I'm simply saying this was my investigation. These were legitimate sources that I found his signed affidavit, the Orlando News and other reputable sources for this information. So it is my belief that these are all factual, not alleged. These are all factual, but that is my opinion.
Okay. So procedure-wise, that was stopped. Supervisor Harmon asked to bring him up, and just to clarify some of the things, we'll clarify those things, then we'll take the vote for the substitute motion, which was to appoint Joanna Francesca.
So ultimately, procedurally, that's correct, because
Okay.
to take the vote on Joanna, Supervisor Harmon feels that he needs some more information.
That's what I thought. So Mr. Curtis, come on up.
So, very quickly, for the record, I need to have a formal vote on.
You did,
to
and I
bring him
second
back
it.
up. I have a motion and a second. I do not have a
Oh,
formal
second.
vote.
I'm sorry. All right, so let's go ahead and take that. Make the motion again of what you want, and then,
What happened to letting him finish?
nope,
That's
because the procedure we just said is we want to do this correctly. So he's already said the notes you have, or whatever you have, that you want to have him be able to speak to what Supervisor Long said.
So, Supervisor Long, are you finished?
No.
Yes or no?
No.
No. So I'm going to take my motion off the table that we talked to Mr. Curtis until after you finish. I want to hear what you got to say, because he's going to want to maybe respond to something else.
And that, I believe, is the motion that's on the table currently. Once we vote for that, we can do that.
But Supervisor Harmon, so right now, the motion before yours that's on the table is to appoint Joanna. So this whole discussion should have been about Joanna. That was the motion on the table. So you said you weren't ready to vote yet, so you wanted more information. So now your motion supersedes that, and this is how you get your more information. So if you withdraw your motion, then the entire comment should be back to talking about Joanna.
Correct.
And not Clinton Curtis.
Supervisor Harmon, let me just throw this in there. I'm basically done. So I was just going to summarize a little bit of my thought process about the importance for our county of doing this right for just a very short period of time with what is tried and proven, and that was basically, I'm done. So I'm done.
So
The only reason I did this motion was because I wasn't ready to vote.
So you still want more information, correct?
Yes.
There we go.
Okay, can we get a formal
Okay,
vote
so
on that motion?
we have a
then?
first. I second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Mr. Curtis, anything? Mr. Harmon, go ahead. Turn your mic on, or Ms. Blankenship will do it.
Thank you, ma'am. So there's no way I'm going to remember everything to ask you. I just want to give you the mic.
Just want to go through it?
'Cause
Okay.
you will remember everything that was said, and I want to hear the response.
2000, I wrote the program, right? 1999, 2000, somewhere in there. Wrote the program, handed it in, didn't think it was nefarious going to hack elections because there were no electronic machines. I thought the purpose was to keep the people from getting electronic machines because they could be hacked so easily. I mean, it's just child's play. So I handed that in. I then, when I found out they were overbilling, I left Yang Enterprises once I found out what they were up to. And when I found out that basically they were overbilling, which essentially they were billing for maintenance and support on a software that was discontinued. It was called Arsis, made by Siemens and Nixdorf. And Siemens and Nixdorf said, we're done with that, and kind of split up. And so there was nothing happening, and they were still being charged $2 million every 3 or 4 times a year. Shouldn't do that. So I reported that to the head of the department, Mavis Georgalis, And she had us go upstairs and tell everybody what's going on. I talked to a guy named Ray Lemmy, and you can check all of this. You could have done all your research a little more thorough by simply going to the bradblog.com.
I did.
You skipped all the parts. You must have been cherry picking. So, but anyway, we went in that, and so we told them what's going on. You know, I told them about the voting stuff. They didn't care. I told them about the overbilling. They kind of cared, not that much, but a little. You know, so we told them that, and then what happened after that was we continued the cycle. They got off of ARSIS and started to do a whole new program. So I was on the team that evaluated all of the new programs, FileNet, Hummingbird, all those guys, right? But when my contract ran out, they said, well, we're not doing ARSIS anymore. We're not going to renew it. And at the same day, they fired Mavis Georgalis. They couldn't fire me because I'm a contractor, right? But they fired Mavis Georgalis. She filed a wrongful termination suit and got millions of dollars. I was a contractor. I got nothing. So it went on and on and on. So in 2006, I believe, I actually ran against Tom Feeney, and part of the campaign was I've taken a polygraph test to every one of these facts and given it to the United States Congress and testified before that Congress under penalty of perjury. And so the campaign was, take the test, Tom. If you're going to deny it, let's take a test. I want a public one. We'll both sit down there, you know, but he'd probably catch fire when he tried. Tom Feeney, I'm sure it's in Brad Blog somewhere, was the congressman that lost his seat because he was involved with Abrahoff. You remember Abrahoff at all? You guys are too young. Anyway, Abrahoff was basically, they were selling their votes, and he was giving them trips to Scotland and all that sort of thing. And so Abrahoff went to jail. And oddly enough, once he got out, he did it again, and he went back to jail, but that's another story. Feeney and, what was the guy's name? Big guy from Texas. Anyway, they were both part of that, and they were kicked out. So I told him about that. I've been pushing this for forever. You talked about electrical resources, right? I wasn't a contractor. I was an employee. I was writing programs. And essentially what happened was Yang connected with them, and that's where that lawsuit came from. It was dismissed. He had to pay the fees. Same thing happened with the filing for, what did they say? A non-compete. They filed a non-compete, but you can't file a non-compete in anything exceeding 100 miles. So obviously Tallahassee exceeds the other by 100 miles, and I didn't have any programs they had anyway. You know, I wrote my own. Everything they had, I wrote. So it's up here, I write it. I don't steal it, I don't need it. So that is the continuation of the process. Was there something else you, no? Did it cover it? Anybody remember anything else that I need to explain?
Supervisor Long, you're welcome to answer if there's anything else that you'd like answers to.
Well, about the 2016 election?
The 2016 election? Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm a Democrat. I had people come to me, and they said, oh, we've had the machine problems for forever. You know, you think you have them here, you have them there. Volusia County had 5,000 more votes than they had voters. Didn't make any sense. Thing happened all over the place. Now, in the particular areas I was in, it didn't matter too much because those were all blue areas. But Trump, forget his name for a second, actually won the state. So they hired my company, which is pretty impressive because they could have hired anybody in all of Florida, hired my company to file and prepare the documentation to contest the 2016 election. And as far as Trump holding against me, he does not. I have dealt with his people. I have not met him personally, but once the Republicans started seeing the problem, they were very happy to come in and help, including Mike Lindell. He just wrote me. Powell was their last name. So, you know, I've been working on all of them. And, you know, I've been working with them. So they respect the fact that I've told the truth, the fact that it actually is documented from a polygraph test by, I think it was the head of the Florida law enforcement agency that provided the polygraph. So all that was done as a continuation of what's going on. So it's all perfect. I've always been the angel. So essentially, that's where all that is. If you look at Brad blog, there's also, you forgot the thing where Yang claimed to have fired me. Because that was one of their big things. They claimed they fired me. And then Brad blog and I found this card where they were wishing us good luck when we were leaving, and the door is always open and all that sort of thing. It's a fun thing to read. It's 20 years old, but there was a lot of stuff in there.
Supervisor Harmon, do you have any other questions? Or Supervisor Long, any other questions?
So would it be fair to say that your entire practice, and it's on the assumption that elections are fraudulent and that machines are messing with results, and that you can develop software protocol that throws elections and dials it in, basically dial a candidate? So that's the common theme that I'm getting from what your experience has been, and that's...
From all the cases? No, most of the cases aren't that. Most cases are pretty mundane things where the ROV, we call them supervisor elections, has messed up. You know, we had one in South Carolina where the black candidate was very close to the white candidate that was the incumbent, but every one of the ballots that went to the black candidate was missing his name. He was in the others, and he lost by like 50 votes.
I saw that, yes.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
No other question.
We didn't win because they said it was an error, good enough. And, you know, I hate that, but it is what it is. So,
Supervisor Harmon, do you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
All right, you can take a
thank you,
seat.
sir.
Thank you. All right, so that's the, please, let's not clap. Still a job interview. All right, so we've taken that substitute motion. We're going to move on to the second motion that was made, which was made by Supervisor Plummer, seconded by Supervisor Long, to appoint Joanna Franciscat. Any other board discussion? Hearing none. Oh,
Just want to say, I mean, the idea that our election systems can be hacked at the simplicity of it being child's play is kind of wild, because if it's that easy, it would have to be happening rampantly all the time, everywhere, completely controlling our elections. And yet no one has, even those who are suggesting that are not alleging that. And so the idea that we would put into the head of the department someone who's making that claim for the last 25 years without substantiation is
so are what we,
a
so,
notion.
So you made the comment, so I'm going to make the comment, because we all seem to be looking at Corky, I guess, which is fine. So what I would say with this, I think Joanna is a remarkable human being. Unequivocally, no buts, no anything else. I think she's a phenomenal human being. I have nothing negative to say about her personally. I believe in this role and where we are right now and what we're seeing with executive orders and where we're going. Shasta County, again, I mean, I didn't get into this to make it comfortable. I got into this to do what I think was best and would move the county and what I'm now realizing at times the state or even the country forward. If we continue to do things the way we've done, we're going to just keep getting that. I'm not saying that. And Supervisor Long appealed to you, Supervisor Harmon, and said, and he talked about when you're making an if you're going to hire somebody. So when you've taken your company, let's say from $3 million, and let's say hypothetically it's doing $3 million a year for a lot of years, and you want to get to 7 and then 20 million. If you keep the people in play that are consistently making you $3 million, you're never going to get to 7, and you could kiss 20 goodbye. I think right now what the option is I agree with Supervisor Kellstrom and many things he said. I hope she's there for a ton of years. I do know right now, personally, that if we're going to take a shot, especially with what we're seeing at the federal level with elections and what history has shown me in the last 2 years, I want a shot at putting all of this to bed once and for all. And I can't think of anybody better, well, personally maybe a Republican, but I can't think of anybody better that has fought this fight in 20-something years to right what I think is wrong with elections. So that's, does anybody else have any?
I do.
Okay, Supervisor,
And so do I when you're done.
Supervisor Long.
You want to go first, Court?
No.
Okay. So I think we have a lot of unsubstantiated claims of fraud and denial. We have a department that has been examined inside and out very carefully and has been found to be following the law to the letter. And I think what I heard from Joanna when she was up here speaking was the fact that she is not opposed to direction from the board as long as it's lawful. So if we end up with new federal edict and we end up with new state laws and we get to that point, she will follow them. And she has been following the law. She protects us from what I got into with all the drama, if you will. If we go one direction here with Mr. Curtis, there will be a lot of drama and lawsuits, and our county doesn't need that at this point. We need a registrar that is just nose to the grindstone, working hard, working tirelessly as we've seen her, and following federal and state law. That is so important that we can't minimize that. So I think the analogies of who would you hire for your business are so apropos, meaning that you're going to find someone that is fully experienced at the local level in the state of California where you operate, and you're not going to bring someone in that doesn't even know law in California and is going to have to come up to speed. We're talking about a year and a half here, and that was kind of rude, actually. I wouldn't do that to you, seriously. So what I am saying is that let's just settle down here a minute. Let's let someone who has been dedicating her life to this, has been following the laws to the letter, is open to suggestion based on changing laws, based on board direction, and let's just settle down and let's stop the controversy in our community. We need to heal. We need to not be subject to so many lawsuits. We need to settle down this narrative until it's proven otherwise. If it's proven otherwise, that's a different story. But there is no proof, and we've heard that today. There has never been anything that has been substantiated, or we would be doing things differently. So with that, I will just close and confirm my recommendation for Joanna.
All right, Supervisor Harmon.
I would like to talk without any comment out there, please, from either side. Obviously, you're talking to me when you talk, and you're talking to me when you talk, because everybody knows what's Corky going to do. And it's very uncomfortable for me to sit here, because I appreciate all four of you guys. I've had a great experience with you guys so far, and it's still going to be that way today. But I haven't talked to either one of these guys. I haven't talked to Supervisor Long about this whole thing. I have talked a little bit, but we never did get to finish. But we got on it a few times, got interrupted, and we're going to talk last night, and he went to sleep, and I was driving back from Aiden, like you. Anyways, but before I tell you what I'm going to tell you, I want to address Joanna, sorry. I think you're awesome too. And it's very uncomfortable to make these kind of decisions. But this decision, Joanna, is bigger than, I think, than just this county. For that reason, I'm gonna support, and I hope you support this decision. But I have to go with the big picture, and then I hope in a year and a half, 2 years, you run and you win after you work with Curtis, and we all get the answers that we want. And I don't care which side of the room you're on. There's questions. I don't care how far left or far right you are, we all know there's questions, that it's not, and you, he's a Democrat, holy smokes, you know?
Hey, listen,
It is very nonpartisan, and I am going to support Curtis, so you can do what you want with the vote now.
all right, so
I'm
listen.
going to support
we're
you
gonna-
too, Joanna.
So we're gonna take the substitute motion, which is Supervisor Plummer's motion, seconded by Supervisor Long. We'll start to my left, and that is to appoint Joanna Francesca.
Supervisor Long,
Yes.
Supervisor Kellstrom. No. Supervisor Cry,
No.
Supervisor Harmon.
No.
And Supervisor Plummer.
Yes.
Okay, fails 2-3. Now, we're gonna take the substitute motion by myself, seconded by Supervisor Kellstrom, to appoint Clint Curtis. And again, that is pending a background check. And we'll start to my right with Supervisor Plummer.
No.
Sorry, Supervisor Plummer,
No.
Supervisor Harmon,
Yes.
Supervisor Cry,
Yes.
Supervisor Kellstrom.
Yes.
And Supervisor Long.
No.
Passes 3-2.